Oh man, it is so much easier to go live like that. Just being ready, being prepared, just makes a huge difference. Let's see, there we go. All right, give me a second. I wasn't ready to be live yet. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Level Up Lando, the show that takes you inside the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the occasional success. That's the everyday challenge of my life as I pursue my never-ending effort of trying to level up. I am your host, Landon Like a Plane, and I'm coming to you from Truscott Studios, also known as my bedroom, right here in lovely Aspen, Colorado. Today is Thursday, April 17th at 12:08 p.m. in the afternoon. We have a pretty lovely day shaping up here in Colorado. We're supposed to get some snow this weekend. So there's some clouds in the sky, which is always kind of nice. We get a lot of bluebird days here. Oh no, my camera shut off. What is that about? Weird. So as I was saying, we get a lot of bluebird days here. And in that way, it's kind of nice to see some clouds in the sky. It's kind of nice to have a little inclement weather from time to time because it sure is a beautiful place to live, and that's largely due to the weather conditions. So hoping to get outside a little later today, except right now I'm coming to you from a place and a feeling of being lost. I think I was talking about this last time a little bit, and there's a little while there where I was feeling like I was on a path and on a trajectory, and that was direction. You know, it was a way to go, and now I feel like I've kind of lost the trail, and it's proven to be a little bit harder to figure out which way I'm supposed to be trying to push myself and move myself. And so whenever what the fuck, dude? Stop shutting off, man. I said record, motherfucker. Let's see what happens if I do it this way. This is just the backup camera, but I like it when it's running. I'm used to doing it this way more than I'm used to doing it with the internet. So I don't know why this thing doesn't want to stay recording, but it doesn't. It's the second time it shut off. So anyways, what I was getting at is that when I feel this way, when I feel lost or like I don't have a direction, I often find that direction by sitting down and doing a podcast. And so that's what we're here. That's why we're here. And hopefully by the time that I get to the end of this podcast, I'll have a better understanding of what it is I should be doing, what I should be up to, and where I should be focusing my time, effort, and energy to make my life better and to level up, as I like to say. And that often comes back to this little guy right here, the Yellow Book of Accountability, which does help me track the things that I need to do and then also come up with new things that I need to do. So we'll dive into that in just a minute. But before we get there, let me catch you up. So, 2 weeks ago, I guess now, I got a message from a client looking to hire me for my services. And I went down and created the project, delivered on the terms of agreement. And then when they came back to me, they said that they were really disappointed with the quality of my work. And when I asked them for specifics about why, I got what I consider to be relatively subjective answers. And as somebody who really prides himself on his reputation, and I never want to take advantage of people, and this is, not consciously, not deliberately, not maliciously, I felt really bad. I felt bad that this guy has agreed to pay me this amount of money and that it's a lot of money and that he felt ripped off. He felt like he didn't get a good deal, and that so much so he went and hired another company to do the job the way that he wanted it done. And so that's where I think we last left each other, in that I was wondering if this guy's going to pay me the rest of the money that he owes me. And then also kind of figure out how to kind of justify and or just make it right with myself that this guy feels taken advantage of. This guy feels ripped off by me. And I was talking with my dad earlier today and sharing with him about I go back and forth between like this real righteous part of me that's like, no, dude, I did a good job. And like, I reviewed the content and what we negotiated, which was unedited photos. And I feel good about what I did for him, especially for the amount of money that I charged him. And then on top of that, the other clients or the other work that I could have potentially been pursuing and didn't get to because I was giving this guy a deal and trying to win his business. And so then there's that part of me that's kind of like, fuck you, and I'm right. And you don't tell me that the quality of my work is shitty because I know it's not. And if you feel that way, that's a you problem, you know? And at the end of the day, if we look at the terms in the agreement, I delivered. And then there's the other side of me, which is very empathetic and understanding. And, you know, there's if I were to put myself in his shoes and I paid somebody else all this money and they gave me a low quality product, I would be disappointed. I would feel ripped off. I would totally feel, you know, justified in telling him to lower the price, which is what he was doing. And so last night I ended up getting an email from him with a link to the new photos that he had this other drone company go take for him. And he was like, look at these photos. And if you can honestly tell me with a straight face that you think that you delivered at this level of quality, then I'll pay you the balance. And I looked at the photos and they were really good. I was really impressed. I was like, wow, these look great. And I understand why he's complaining about the photos that I gave him. However, a major difference between the photos that he gave to me and the photos that I gave to him is that they were edited. They were edited. And I asked him if he wanted edited photos, and he said no. And I asked him if he did want edited photos, I would charge him for that. And he said no. So when I'm now looking at these other photos, I'm like, wow, this guy got a screaming deal. He paid $350 and he got, you know, all these edited photos, which look really nice. And that's definitely the way to go. However, that's not what we agreed on. And so from that perspective, I still feel like I'm entitled to the money, that I did the job to the terms and agreement. And how do I kind of rectify that? And so I sent him an email that was just like, you know, I looked at the photos and after reviewing them, I feel like the quality and the color vibrancy of my photos is to our terms of agreement. And the fact that you were able to get a different deal for $350 has nothing to do with what you contracted me to do. So I expect you to pay me. So I was having this conversation with my dad, and my dad was talking to me about how there's a little bit of a self-esteem thing going on, and that the truth is that I deliver really high quality work, and with this particular client I struck out, and that is a blow to my self-esteem, and that is a blow to my own understanding of what I need to do to make sure that I'm getting the details from the client to make sure that we're really clear, which I thought that I had done. And now I've learned through this experience, even though I was pretty thorough, I wasn't thorough enough. And there were some critical questions that needed to be asked that I didn't ask. And that is my job. That is not his job. That is my job. Although if he were to have shared with me what his vision was, I could have delivered that. I could have delivered what he got in his photos. I just missed the mark because I wasn't clear on what he wanted. And so it's been this really interesting emotional sort of flip flop and going back and forth between being like, I'm right, he's wrong. And then also, I totally understand. And I feel badly that I didn't give him the quality of work that he is paying a lot of money for. And he feels cheated to a certain extent. And I can relate to that. I can empathize with that. So it's been an interesting few days, and I do believe this guy's going to pay me. I sent him an email basically saying, you know, it's clear to me that we're not going to work together in the future. And so as much as I'm kind of working myself up over this client and the idea that he's disappointed with my work and the idea that my brand is my reputation, and to a certain extent, I've hurt my reputation by trying to appease this client and then missing the mark. So all of that has been kind of what I've been dealing with from an emotional point of view and kind of from a business financial point of view. So as I have tried to work through it and arrived at the position that I've arrived at, where I got was, I'm not going to be doing future business with this guy. I need him to pay me for what we agreed on and then just move on. And so that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm trying to do, although I can't really move on until he pays me. So once he pays me, I can let it become water under the bridge and move forward. And until he pays me, I have to assume he's not going to pay me. So I'm working within sort of these, restricted boundaries of what I can do as far as moving forward and either needing him to pay me and or accepting he's not going to. And so he sent me this email last night and I responded to it. And so we'll see if they end up actually paying me or not. But at the end of the day, it's been a pretty disappointing experience. And it's one that I have done my best to really pick apart and learn from because I have very little desire to deal with this again. And so I'm trying really hard to learn from my mistakes and to learn from some of my missteps. And, even though I struck out, to find the confidence to get back up and take another swing. So it has been a very chaotic week or two here. And as I am trying to pull myself out of it and get back to focusing on me and making myself better and making my business better and the quality of my work better, there's definitely things that I can do. There's a lot to work on in those three areas. One of the main ones that I've been working on is just trying to work on me. And so a few days ago, I went for my first trail run where the mountains are getting ready to shut. I have been skiing for over 100 days, and getting to 100 days of skiing was a really interesting experience. It was very validating in the idea that I could do anything, even if it's something fun, for 100 days. And that in the process of achieving that goal, you learn a lot about consistency and have some semblance of discipline because there's plenty of the days of those 100 that I didn't actually want to go. And it didn't matter whether I wanted to or not. If I didn't go, I didn't get the day. I didn't get a tick off to get closer to 100. So there was a lot of days when the snow was really shitty or when I was not feeling particularly well or I just was unmotivated to actually go, and none of that mattered. I went anyway. And I think that like sort of really reinforcing that idea of discipline is not up to how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter whether you're feeling motivated or inspired or lazy and lackadaisical. What matters is action. What matters is what do you do despite how you feel. And so bringing that back to what I'm up to, I'm trying to now like institute a new 100-day goal of exercising and working out and taking care of my body. And I keep having like this vision of this is the summer of shred. And so while that was the winter of shred, this will be the summer of shred, which I just put that together right now. It's pretty clever, actually. And that maybe I need to figure out a way to target 100 days of exercise in some capacity and really bring that discipline and cultivate that desire to get it done regardless of how I feel back, because I feel like I've kind of let that go since I hit the 100 days. I could still go snowboarding for a few more days, but I don't want to get hurt. We are into what is the spring and coming on summer season, and I don't want to sustain an injury at this stage. And it's just, I already achieved my goal of 100 days. So I'll probably end up going this weekend. We're supposed to get some snow starting tomorrow. And then Snowmass is closing on Saturday, and Aspen Mountain is closing on Sunday. And that's the last two mountains we have open. Highlands closing party was last weekend, and Buttermilk was Bacon Day the weekend before. So really kind of getting ready to wrap the winter season, winter 2025. So as we do that, and as I start getting ready to put away all the snowboard gear and winter gear, and break out the flip flops and the boxer brief underwear instead of the long thermal underwear, I'm trying to figure out how to continue to have some sort of drive that is bigger than me and my own desire or lack thereof to achieve and to accomplish. And when you have some sort of goal like that, it really does help. I can't tell you. I would have definitely not made it to 100 days if I didn't have the goal of trying to get to 100 days. When I got to 80 days, I had 30 days left in the ski season. I think it was 34, actually. But it's like I could only miss 14 days out of the next 20. And so you got to go. And now I'm in a position where I did that, and there's 5 days left, and I'll probably have a few more days of snowboarding under my belt as I go to these closing parties. But at the end of the day, I would have missed those 14 days. I would have missed that window if it wasn't a specifically stated goal of mine to achieve. So with that in mind, I'm trying to bring back some other goal. I'm thinking about buying myself a golf pass, which would let me go to the driving range and hit 2 buckets of balls a day. And it's $400, and I don't really have that $400 like excess, especially if this guy doesn't pay me. Um, but also at the same time, it's maybe an investment in that dream and goal to get to 100 days of hitting golf balls. That then justifies the cost. You put a little skin in the game. You pony up $400, and now you get access to this pass that then, in order to justify the cost, you got to go use it. It's very much the same way that gym memberships work. And so in that way, I'm trying to find what that is. I haven't determined yet if I'm going to go ahead and buy the pass, but I think that I am. I'm disappointed. Fish is getting ready to start playing on the West Coast. They're doing their spring tour. They're playing from Seattle all the way down to LA, and I try to catch them anytime that they play, mostly because they're getting old and it's going to come to an end at some point here. And from that point of view, I want to see them as much as I can, even though I've seen them a ton already. So I was really hoping to be able to find a way to pull the trigger and like FOMO my way into going out to the West Coast and catching them. And as I've looked at plane tickets and as I've looked at concert tickets and the cost of all that, even if I have a place to stay, it's more money than I really want to spend and have to spend, even if I do get paid by this guy, mainly because I've got a business, and any extra money I have really should go to reinvesting in the business. So I've started to come to terms with the fact I'm not going to get to see Fish while they're playing this spring tour, which is only 10 days. And instead, that maybe I'll take the money that I would spend on that and buy this pass. So we'll see. Okay, so there's that. Now, bringing it back to what am I doing today? What am I doing this moment? The past is the past and the future hasn't happened. So all that matters is right now. And if that's true, which I believe it is, what am I doing right now to be better, to grow, and to push my boundaries? And again, this is coming back to the idea of being lost a little bit and not really being sure which direction I should try to push forward into. And then that combined with a little bit of self-pity and a blow to my self-esteem, I've found that I'm not taking action. And I know that that's a problem. I know that if you're not taking action, that's worse than taking action in the wrong direction. Action is the most important thing, and I'm kind of like stunned a little bit. And so rather than either be moving forward or backward, I'm stuck in place. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm hoping that by the time we get to the end of this, I'll have a little bit clearer understanding of what I'm supposed to do. And so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the old yellow book of accountability, which it's kind of crazy. I've only got this much paper in it left. I don't know if you can see that. So, yeah, it's working. But okay, let's just flip back a little bit here and see what we got going on. It starts to feel overwhelming, honestly, as I look back, and I just caught a quick glance of. I went to this Chamber of Commerce meeting and I networked with a bunch of these different people, and I'm supposed to try to send them some samples of my work and create some new clients. And even just thinking about all that was just like anxiety inducing. So let's get it down. Let's get it onto the paper here. and we'll talk it out. So today is the 27th. So yesterday I went down and had a meeting with my editor at the newspaper, who really is enjoying my writing. And I got to say that writing is such a joy and pleasure for me, and I do it for fun. To have somebody really acknowledge and validate my work and tell me that I'm bringing value, both to the newspaper and to the community through my writing, it's a really good feeling, I gotta say. And it's something that definitely uplifted my spirits a bit and made me feel better about um, what I'm doing, with my life, and how I am trying to elevate into being of service and being of contribution. I'm reading this book, Power versus Force, and one of the things that it says is that power comes from higher states of consciousness, and that as you raise your consciousness and as you level up into higher levels, that then you become of service. That higher levels of conscious are the ones that are their priorities and their mind is oriented around being of service and being of contribution. And I've definitely noticed that as I've shifted from being oriented around me and my, barely able to survive life, that I have started becoming more of contribution. I have started being of service more. And then when I started being of service more, I started making more money. And so I find that to be somewhat amusing, but also the way that it works, in that the part of the reason I'm able to make more money is because when you rise up to the level of giving and being of contribution, that's the first step necessary to then access a whole network of other people who have been doing that for a lot longer than you. And so when you rise up to a level of, now I'm going to be of contribution and service, suddenly all these other people who are already doing that and have been doing that for a long time can see you. And they're like, oh, there's a new guy, let's help him. And so in that way, I'm getting help. I've got a network of people who are trying to facilitate me in my own version of trying to give. And that's very giving of them. So it's kind of this really cool cycle that you get into, where you're like, I'm trying to be of contribution. I meet somebody else who's trying to be of contribution. They recognize that I'm trying to be a contribution, so they help me. And in helping me, I get stronger, I get better, and I'm able to help more people, which then allows other people who are seeing me do that want to help me. So it was kind of cool to hear that from my editor and to get some sort of feedback that my articles are being well received by the community and that he wants me to write for them more. So pretty cool. And so we've got a couple of ideas for some articles coming up. Ideas Festival, Happy Hour, ACES, Closing Day. I'm going to put down book reports and local businesses, which I talked to him about. And maybe some TV show reviews. So we'll see. I kind of write in a way where if it comes naturally to me, that's what I want to write about. And it's weirder to me to like contrive a story or to go out before the story's like spoken to me and I've got a vision for what it would be in my head and then try to like write it that way, like you would if you were a newspaper writer. So anyways, all right, there's that. I had a meeting with my mentor last week where I discussed with him about what was going on. And, he agreed that I kind of handled it appropriately and that I was professional and that despite me and this guy not seeing eye to eye, I stuck by my guns and that I stood by the quality of my work, which I do. However, seeing these other photos, I can see why the guy was disappointed. So there's that. And that just happened last night. So, all right. What can I do here? How can I take action? So I'm just going to put action at the top. Action. What can I do? I think I'm going to go for a run. And maybe a workout. I got to pull out the weight bench. My gym membership's coming to an end here. And so I should try to use it these last 15 days of April. But I haven't been. I used to go over there after I snowboarded. And now I'm kind of done snowboarding, so I don't really go over that much anymore. But I do like to run. So maybe I'll try to take myself out for a run, get a little exercise. Um, I need to email Toastmasters people, and Eagles Club people. One of the ways I'm trying to be of contribution is I've joined the interview committee at my Eagles Club, and I'm now in charge of trying to get new members brought in. So there's a whole list of people that I need to email. And that could be an easy one to I can blast email them. So maybe I'll just do that. And that way it kind of jump starts the action train. And it's an easy one. So I like doing that. A lot of times when I'm feeling like I'm twiddling my thumbs, that it is good to just pick something easy and then do it. And that way you get to kind of cross it off your list and feel like it's a little win and it's a little level up. So we will look at that. Then I've got to practice with the drone. I've decided I need to get better after seeing these photos, and editing. Got family, Steely Dead, and let's see. I can do virtual tours, which is something I'm working on. So maybe I'll go for a run and I'll take my 360 camera with me and then try to turn that into a virtual tour of my neighborhood. So we'll see. Maybe I'll try that because I need to practice learning how to turn my 360-degree footage into a virtual tour. And I was recently asked by the realtor client that I have if I can do that. So I told her I could, even though I can't. I mean, I have the ability to. Just don't really have any practice doing it yet. Maybe make a clear list of goals. What am I trying to achieve? Fitness, financial, and business goals. I just went and was using AI to try to run the numbers on my business, which it's interesting doing like actual business stuff when I'm not particularly suited or naturally skilled to do business stuff. So, for example, I was looking at my profit margin, which, it was AI was like, well, how much money do you want to make in a year? And I was like, $150,000. And I was like, is that reasonable for a drone pilot to make in the Aspen area? And it was like, yeah, based on the high cost of living, that the average drone pilot makes like $158,000 a year. And so that is reasonable. I'm like, okay. And so it's like, well, if you want to make $150,000 a year, that's $261,000 in revenue because you got to pay taxes. And so it's like, pick your profit margin. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I think my profit margins are pretty good. I don't know what they are, but so I was like 80%. And AI was like, that is not really realistic. But here's what the numbers would look like if you had an 80% profit margin. And it showed me and it broke it all down after I explained to it what my expenses are and what my costs are and how much money I'm trying to make. And basically, it was saying that, I need to make $261,000 in revenue. And so then it was saying, okay, so if you want to break that down and like how much money are you getting per project or how many, what do you want to make per hour as an hourly wage? And so I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to make 150 grand. Tell me what that is as an hourly wage. And it said it's $75 an hour. And then when I converted it to a $2,000 a project, it said that it's like 2.25 projects a week. And so it's like, okay, now I'm starting to get some sort of realistic idea of what I need to be doing if I want to make 150 grand. And it's interesting to me to see that. It's interesting to me to see those numbers and to kind of like feel a little uncomfortable depending on what the numbers are, and then also much more comfortable depending on what the numbers are. And so it was like, yeah, you're going to have to do 4 projects a week at $2,000 a project if you want, 80% profit margin. And I was like, okay, what if I make it 30% profit margin? And it's like, all right, so if you're doing 30%, that means that you're profiting 30 cents of every dollar. And so it's like, okay, so if you're profiting 30 cents of every dollar, then you need to make this much money, which is like $216,000 or whatever it was. And then you divide that by 52 weeks at $2,000 a project, and you got to do 2.25 projects a week at $2,000 in order to get to that number. And it's like, okay. And it's like, I don't know if I'm there yet, but it's like now I have a realistic vision of what I'm trying to do. 2.25 projects, $2,000 a pop. Okay. Now we can do that. It's like you do that 100 times, and that's 200 grand. That's your 216,000 in revenue, which after you pay taxes is 150 grand. So I'm getting a clearer understanding of what I need to do from a business point of view and from like a, kind of down in the dirt numbers point of view, which again, I'm so grateful for AI to help me with this stuff because I'm not naturally, if I had to try to figure out how to do all this stuff and calculate it myself, even with formulas and whatever, business and the internet and it all being known and understood, it becomes overwhelming for me. And it's like, I just want to fly the drone. I just want to fly the drone and take photos. And I don't mind making sales and, networking, but I don't want to be a businessman. I don't want to do the hard work of going through the growing pains of my own ignorance and my own lack of knowledge and understanding around what it takes to be a successful businessman. But if I don't do it, I'm likely not going to get to be a successful businessman. So it's interesting to me to see how I come face to face with different problems and different like lack of skill that I have that I then need to go acquire the skill. And that whole decision is very confronting and filled with friction. And I would like for myself to be a little bit better, a little bit faster at moving from, oh, I need to learn how to do this to I'm learning how to do this to I figured it out. So maybe in that way we'll put down learn. I need to learn business and editing, maybe AI as well. That's one of the things I'm looking at spending some money on. If I do get this payday and I have a little bit of extra money, I would like to maybe invest it in learning how to use AI. Because if I could use AI to do my editing and if I could pay for the AI software that does my editing and I'm still a one-man show, I don't have to pay an editor and I can get better quality product. So that is worth investing both in my personal development as well as in my business. So we'll see. I could also buy another drone, which might be a good call because there's tariffs that have been imposed and now all Chinese products are ridiculously expensive. And my drone is from China. So maybe that means I need to get a different drone. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that I could potentially reinvest some of this money into my own business and into my own personal development. And I'm looking at doing that. I'm considering what are the ways, which of the 3 different things I'm looking at, which is either buying a second drone and then also investing in AI course to learn how to do AI course or just buying the AI software. I got to figure out which one of those is going to move the needle the most. Because if I buy another drone, that means I can rent it out or hire a second drone pilot, which I've been asked to do by people. So we'll see. I don't know how that's going to play out, but it's something I need to look into. It's something I need to distill down to figure out where is the best use of this money if I'm going to reinvest it. So that's a nice little list of things. I can feel myself having a little bit of a sigh of relief there as I have at least created a list of things I can do here. And then I've got to finish these videos for my current client who hopefully will pay me. Old videos and new concepts. Okay. So there's that. So now, still not feeling completely resolved yet. And again, when I'm feeling this way, again, this is another reason I really like doing a podcast. Is I don't really do this stuff unless I sit down to record a podcast. I would never do this. Well, I would, but it makes more sense to me to turn on a podcast to do it if I'm going to do it at all. And that is to read from the Daily Stoic, which is 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Thank you guys for putting this book together. I find it to be helpful to me. I hope it's helpful to my audience. And today is April 17th. And again, I like to kind of let you into my mind before I read from it, with the idea that if it does have an impact and if it does shift something, you can observe that, because I told you where I was before and then where I am after. And that's what's so cool about this book, is this book has the ability to reframe your whole mental outlook in a paragraph this big. So my mental outlook, like right now, is I'm feeling slightly depressed. I'm feeling a little down. I'm feeling a little bummed out that I didn't deliver the way that this guy wanted me to deliver, and that I'm going to take his money anyway. And I'm also feeling a little challenged by my lack of skill and my lack of ability to produce photos like the ones that he sent me at that low cost point, which the company that he got to do that is this big company. And I was talking with my mentor, and he's like, yeah, you're not like that. You can't compete with those guys. You're a small business. And so in that way, you have to niche down. And if they want, it's like going to Walmart. It's like if they want the Walmart of drone pilots, that's available to them, but that's not you. And I was like, okay, that does kind of make me feel a little bit better, as far as I am custom and I am niche and I am working in a very high cost of living area. And so with that in mind, I need to pick my clients a little bit better. However, I am feeling a little frustrated and challenged by my lack of skill. So that usually just means you got to go get more skills. And like I was just talking about, the idea of that, of starting down that road of like, okay, now I got to learn how to do this on top of all the other stuff I'm already trying to learn how to do and get better at. It's intimidating, and it creates anxiety and a little bit of doubt. So that sort of sums up where I'm at. I'm generally feeling pretty good, as far as I've been taking care of my body for a while now. I've been, really embracing the idea that the time in my life right now, where I haven't had a lot of money, has been created by me so that I'd stop smoking weed and I'd stop drinking alcohol, mostly because I can't afford to do either of those things. And that a lot of times those activities are enjoyed in times of boredom. And so now I'm trying to use those bored times to be productive and to develop these skills that I'm talking about, and do hard things, do things that are particularly difficult for me, like learn how to be a businessman when I don't know how to be a businessman. And I'm a really good drone pilot and videographer and photographer and a salesman. But when it comes to things like profit margin and overhead expenses, I start to feel way over my head, and it's nerve-wracking. It's like, oh God, I'm not good enough to do this, is the feeling, even though that feeling is immediately backed up by the idea of, okay, so then get good. Like, don't let the fact that you're not good stop you. Go get good. And that's where I kind of come back to, it's important to take action. So that's where I'm at. I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of depression and a little bit of doubt, self-doubt. And then outside of that, I'm feeling proud of myself and accomplished and determined. And like, this is just a little bump in the road and a lesson to be learned from. And that I'm learning as I go. And that's sometimes the hard way. And that's okay. That's okay, as long as you learn. So that's where I'm at. I'm hoping to find a little bit of direction. I'm hoping to find a little bit of enthusiasm and motivation. So let's see what the Daily Stoic has to say. April 17th. No harm, no foul. Do away with the opinion I am harmed, and the harm is cast away too. Do away with being harmed, and harm disappears. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 4.7. A word can have multiple meanings. One usage can be harsh, and another might be completely innocent. The same word can mean a cruel slur or a pile of sticks. In the same way, something said sarcastically differs drastically from something that was pointed and mean. The interpretation of a remark or a word has an immense amount of power. It's the difference between a laugh and hurt feelings, the difference between a fight breaking out and two people connecting. This is why it's so important to control the biases and lenses we bring to our interactions. When you hear or see something, which interpretation do you jump to? What is your default interpretation of someone else's intentions? If being upset or hurt is something you'd like to experience less often, then make sure your interpretations of others' words make that possible. Choose the right inference from someone's actions or from external events, and it's more likely that you'll have the right response. Man, that this one hits. This one hits. I was having a long conversation with my father this morning about my relationship with my sisters, which isn't very good. And despite me wanting it to be a closer, friendlier relationship, they respond to me in a way that I feel is unwarranted because I'm no longer the version of the person that I am that they're making these assumptions about. And I was saying, I don't do that. I come from a place of I let people show up how they are. And even if they've proven themselves to be a certain way, today I'm open to them being completely different. Yep. Maximum file size reached for 38 minutes. We're going to wrap it. So, this is really relevant. This is really apt. I'm going to take a photo of this and send it to my dad because we were kind of having this back and forth conversation where he's like, if you behave in a certain way and you create a reputation for yourself and people can count on you to continue to behave that way, and then suddenly you change how you've behaved, it's not on the other people to think that you're going to behave any differently. And even if you do, that's the rarity and not the consistent thing that they've come to know you to do. And I was like, yeah, but that's not right. Then they pigeonhole you. They paint you into a corner where they're looking for evidence that you're going to go ahead and behave that way. And then when you do, they go, aha. Instead of going, oh, he's different. He's changed, which is what I do. I allow myself to be in relationships with people where every single day they can show up differently. And I'm not going to hold that against them. In fact, I'll embrace them for how they are right now. And that I wish that my sisters did that and that they don't do that. And so here in these words, it says, that's why it's so important to control the biases and lenses we bring to our interactions. When you hear or see something, which interpretation do you jump to? And so just because I have my interpretation that I jump to, which is I'm going to accept you as how you're showing up right now, doesn't mean I haven't earned the reputation that they jump to and the lens that they see me through my prior actions and behaviors. And that is profound. That is an epiphany of sorts for me. And I am happy to have this worded in a way that is landing for me because the way that I was doing it with my dad really wasn't. It was kind of like a push pull sort of conversation. And this is much more direct and to the point. And at the very end, it says choose the right inference from someone's actions or from external events, and it's a lot more likely that you'll have the right response, which is admittedly one of my problems. Is I don't read in a room very well. I don't read my audience very well, and as somebody who's trying to be as efficient and accomplished in my communication as possible, it's important. It's important to be able to read your audience and make sure that your message is landing in a way that you want it to be received, because otherwise it's often not. And it's often misinterpreted and misunderstood. And it's not that they're wrong for seeing it that way. It's that you failed to communicate to your audience in a way that they could jump to the right inference of what you're saying. So I'm going to really kind of gnaw on that one for a little while and see if I can't implement being better at jumping to the right inference. And I more so than myself, creating the right inference and the right biases for the people who are listening and experiencing me. And yeah, now I can feel myself. I love this book, man. I can feel myself uplifted. I can feel myself motivated and coming from a place and a desire to make myself better and to work on the parts of myself that I'm weak. And that feels good. It feels good. I feel like I maybe haven't found a direction in the real world as far as action goes. I mean, I do have a little direction with the Little Yellow Book of Accountability. But no, now I have a direction, at least spiritually and emotionally, that I can continue to digest and work on at least for the day, and then hopefully going forward until I can read that again and go, I got that lesson and I've implemented it and it doesn't apply to me anymore, which is another thing that happens with this book. A lot of times the lesson is something I've already got and it doesn't really matter, and I can embody it and put it into play because it's already in play. And this is one that isn't that. And so I need to work on it. I can be better. And this has helped me to understand how. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show. I want to send you out into the world to try to be the better person than you were yesterday, and to level up yourself, and to remember that how you interpret things has an immense effect of power in your world, and that interpreting them one way can create a completely different reality than interpreting them another, and that it's in your interest to figure out which of those two interpretations you want to do. So I wish you luck in interpreting your reality in a way that's empowering and makes you feel better about what you're doing and makes you feel like you're growing yourself and that you're a better version today than you were yesterday. Because that's what I'm up to. And I hope you enjoy watching me struggle that struggle. It's not easy, but I'm working on it. So with that, I am your host, landed like a plane, and I'm taking off.